And we are live, baby. Awesome. So, this is going to be week one of our Menopause Mindset Shift. And so, each week there'll be a different topic. And today we're going to focus in on, I think, the most important part because it kind of should hopefully stop you where you're at. And so, week one, we're addressing thinking you have to do more than you need to. Now, this isn't everybody. There are certainly people out there who are not making efforts nutritionally, mentally, physically, and that is no judgment on that because this is actually going to tie into those people as well. But that's for sure, right? But there's a certain archetype of woman and men, even in a different way, in a menopause way, perhaps, where you feel like, okay, well, in the past, when I worked out more, when I dieted harder, I got results. So let me just do more of that, right? Logically, it makes sense. Here's the issue: weight loss is not a logical problem. And weight loss in menopause, sure as hell, is not a logical problem. And therefore, if you're going to solve an emotional problem, which is what it is, you need an emotional solution, which is why we're talking about the mindset part of it. So many programs don't even mention it or just neglect it or just like work harder, lose weight. It's like all these phrases and sayings. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, we got to address the most important part, which is the inner space. And that's what we're going to be doing. So, you got to realize that if you have a lot of life stress going on, and it's particularly when you're going through menopause, let's just look at what's going on for so many women who are entering into menopause. Kids are getting older. Emptiness is a real thing. Whether kids are getting, they're more independent, so less dependent on you, right? Or moving out of the house, going to college, getting married. There's that going on, right? So there then becomes like this void for so many women. It's like, what is my purpose? All these years, yeah, I had a job, but like this was my life, taking care of my kids. They don't need me as much. There's an element of that going on. There's also an element, parents are getting older, right? Taking care of parents is another life stressor. There's an element of people dying, like people you love, right? Your friends. And that's an interesting thing too. You see your friends at any level, your peers dying, and you're like, holy shit, that could be me. That starts to make you think about things, right? But even, just in general. So there's all these like life stressors that are happening. And oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this. Through 2020, there was something called COVID, right? You ever hear of that? That really shook things up for so many of us, right? And really since then, and it's not just because of COVID, but with technology and what's going on in the world, like it's most stressful time for us as a global community than it's ever been. And a big part of that is technology as well. We're getting exposed to things we really shouldn't see. Our brain's not able to handle the capacity of all the horrible things in the world. Yet we see that algorithms are specifically playing to the things that you're going to look at, most of which are tying into your fears, right? It's tying into your anxieties. Don't get me started on most news networks. Like that's what they do. That's how they make money, is to make you scared, right? So you take all of these stresses, everything going on. And oh, by the way, women who are going through menopause, your body's physiologically changing like it never has before. Most women will describe the metabolic drop off as if they're falling off a cliff. So there's a lot that you're trying to take on here, whether you're thinking about it all together or not. And there's a lot of things I didn't even mention. I mean, we all have our own personal stuff going on in our life, right? Life doesn't slow down just because you hit menopause. So you have all these factors that are going on. And where I'm getting at here is you have that archetype of woman who is like, all right, I'm going to work out more. I'm going to diet harder. And that backfires 100% of the time, especially through menopause, because first of all, as the body is changing, so does your body's ability to recover. Recovery becomes so much more important than it ever was your entire life. That's why with my small group training programs, my online clients, I prescribe no more than 3 strength workouts a week, no more than three strength workouts a week. And recovery is built in for our defined clients who are doing our treatments for our spot reduction, our metabolic boost. The minimum we require to drop a size in 6 weeks is to do 45 minutes of walking per week. All right. So like less is more, right? Especially when you're doing the right sort of program. So why this is important? Well, look, if you have all of these life stresses going on, and then you're doing super intense workouts and or doing too high a volume of workouts, like 5, 6, 7 days a week, your body's not recovering. And if your body's not recovering, what does that mean? Well, your central nervous system is probably out of whack because your system is in fight or flight. All of those stresses I mentioned a minute ago, your brain interprets that as like life or death, really. That's just what it does, right? If you have all these stresses and what you're thinking about constantly, your body's in a state of threat, whether you know it or not. Especially with the more your mind is focusing on things that are bad and negative, which by the way, is a survival mechanism. Like if you do have a lot of things going on in your life that are intense, or if you watch things on the news, well, if you watch the news regularly, there's always gonna be horrible things that you can watch. If your algorithm is on things that fire you up politically or socially or whatever, like your brain isn't able to decipher like, oh, this is just politics. This is just global. No, it's like, holy shit, life or death. Focus on negative. Negative. If I focus on negative, that's a protection mechanism. That was my robot voice. And sorry if I just shot out a snot out of my nose. A little bit of congestion here. And I get a little excited talking about this stuff. But the point is that when you are in the fight or flight, you're in your sympathetic nervous system. And that's a lot of stress on your nervous system. And you tie in intense exercise, which by the way, I would like to think I'm one of the ones that pioneered intense workouts back 20 before there was 30-minute workouts everywhere. What we did at Mel was at the time very different and unique, low impact, high intensity. And so I understand intensity, and the premise of an intense workout and why it's beneficial is because the idea is that you are training hard in that time so that your body will be in an elevated state of recovery post workout. So your body is working, burning calories, spreading nutrients, recovering from your workout, therefore burning calories through a process called thermogenesis. So like that's the idea why it's efficient to do an intense workout. But if you have so much going on in your life and you're not recovering from that intensity, well, what happens is you're perpetuating the state of stress internally, right? And when you are in a fight or flight state, what happens? Well, reproduction slows down, digestion slows down, elimination slows down, metabolism slows down. You getting the point here? Your body can become more catabolic, meaning you're eating away and you're losing muscle. Oh, by the way, what is another thing women through menopause have to deal with? Sarcopenia, the natural loss of muscle tissue as we age. It happens to all of us, but women in menopause, unfortunately, I hate to say it, it's something that is happening at an accelerated rate. And so you have all these factors going in at you. And most women, by the way, don't eat nearly enough protein. Not a judgment, just a reality. And that's another factor that even if so, let's say you're doing all this intense workouts, forget about the recovery, but that's a component of it. And now you're not getting enough protein. I literally have women come to me who are working out 5, 6, 7 days a week, and their muscle percent is low. And that should not be the case if you're working out that often. Shit. If you just have enough protein in your diet, your muscle percent would be average. Like we see it because we track all this stuff. We have 3D imaging here, which tracks everything. And we see women who come in with low muscle percent and we see it go up accordingly. And we're talking most women who don't even work out, but it goes just because the way our eating plan is constructed. But certainly if you are working out a couple of times a week or more, your muscle percent should not be in the low. I don't care about menopause and sarcopenia in that rate. If you are working out regularly, your muscle should be higher. So what that means is your body quite literally is eating away at your muscle. And that also ties in nutritionally because it gets harder. So that archetype of thinking is like, all right, work out harder, diet harder. I need more willpower. I should not have a carb or a cupcake. It's like, cool. Yeah, I agree. Like eating cupcakes is not a great idea to do regularly, right? For sure, without question. But the more you tell yourself no, the more you're creating a battle you don't need. And that's just the reality of it. That's the way the brain works, especially when it comes to nutrition. Because really, nutrition, and forget about nutrition, just food. Let's talk about food and drink, because why most of us will eat things that are outside of our plan, so to speak, is not because you're weak. It's not because you're not disciplined. It's because your nervous system's seeking comfort. And that is something that is happening at a deeper level. And then, oh, by the way, if you are having this stuff regularly, particularly artificially sweetened or added sugars, now you have another issue. Those bacteria are living in your gut and they are wanting to replicate. So now you're getting what feels like cravings, but really it's just the bacteria that's like, hey, get more of the stuff, right? And that's why it's hard to break the cycle. So there's a lot going on nutritionally as well. But what I always tell people is like, yeah, for sure, you got to make lifestyle changes. Like to think that you don't have to make nutrition and exercise lifestyle changes, you're out of your mind. That's just the reality. I'm sorry to say. If you don't know that, I don't know what else to tell you, but you don't need to diet. You don't want to diet. And oh, by the way, what's another issue that happens with dieting? Your metabolism slows down. You don't need that. So doing too much nutritionally and extra and from a physical standpoint can be detrimental. But I can understand why your mind would think you need to do so, right? And now let me look at the other archetype of woman who isn't exercising, who isn't really making a ton of effort in the moment. She has before. I know you have before, but maybe not in a moment of making these types of changes. Well, for her, it's all or nothing. It's like I don't want to diet. That didn't work for me. I don't want to work out super intense and do like I had a woman the other day was telling me what she does at her gym by with a trainer. She's doing like squat jumps and sprints and all this. And this woman has knee issues. She's taping her knees to do all this stuff. Whoa. Why? What is the point of doing a squat jump onto a box for a woman who is 47? Riddle me that. There's no point. I hate to say, yeah, it's cool if you can pull it off, but is it worth having to tape your knees and live in pain? Absolutely not. And in exercise, what you need to think about is training economy. It's like, what is the risk of the exercises that you are doing? What is the benefit of the exercises you are doing? Yeah, of course, you can get your heart rate stimulated through squat jumps, high impact training, but at what cost? You don't need to do that to get into the best shape of your life. I can promise you that. Again, that's just going to make your recovery even worse. Forget about the impact on your joints. So like, it doesn't have to be that. And so all of this goes back to like the premise of today's focus, which is less is more. And a part of that is self-love. I know that sounds like wooey and self-love. Well, look, it's the reality of it. Like one of the things that I do in my small group workouts, I have a mirror I put in front of your face at the end and I make you smile. Seriously though, like I want you to fucking smile at yourself. Look what you just did, dude. Let's go. You should feel good about this. Look, if you don't smile, like most women I talk to, avoid the mirror, avoid pictures, look at the mirror in disgust. I encourage you to look in the mirror like someone who you love, who you want to win. That's what you need to do. Like, what are we doing here? We're like, how could we ever expect to feel good about ourselves if we put ourselves down? And I understand that ain't a light switch. You can't just be like, I'm going to feel good about myself. Whoop. No, it's not that easy. Oftentimes there are years and years and years of trauma, micro traumas, macro traumas. There's a lot going on. I understand it. And you might not love how you look right now, and that's okay. But you got to at least love that you're showing up and doing your best. And sometimes your best is not nothing at all. But that's where you're at. You're doing the best where you can with the information you have. And now you have new information because I'm here to tell you that any effort, anything above nothing is something as progress. And so every time you see a mirror, smile at it. Seriously. It's hard to be really mad and angry when you smile. It's physiologically impossible. You can't be really angry and do that. Try it. Try to say negative shit smiling. You're going to laugh. It's not going to feel negative because you're smiling. Like that is literally a physiological trigger. When you smile, you feel good about yourself. So I want to kind of leave you guys with that, which is like, for sure, yes, let's make changes. But one of the things self-sabotage loves is when you're starting something really important for you, like say, changing your body and your mind through menopause. And self-sabotage loves getting you to do more than you actually make sense for you to do. Like we've talked about the physiological reality of doing too much, right? But mentally, it's a thing, right? That's like self-sabotage is a chameleon. It will find a reason to get you to a place to stop doing what you're doing to change. That's just what it is in short. And so you will have the urge and feel like you need to do more, but that also takes away from sort of your love for yourself, right? And it takes you further from your progress. So without question, like, yes, you have to make change. But one of the things that you'll find, I found with thousands of women I've worked with, is self-sabotage loves confusion. It loves overwhelm. It loves, and oh, by the way, if you are going through menopause, you're having some perhaps brain fog, some of you, right? So that makes it all even harder. But the reality is like we need to make this as simple as possible. And that is like my life mission when it comes to nutrition. I always my philosophy hasn't changed since, gosh, I don't know, 2010, whatever it was, but my delivery has changed. I'm trying to boil it down and boil it down and simplify and simplify and simplify. And even what we provided right now, and in talking to people, I'm like, hey, how's it going? Like, what's going on? You know, sometimes you get like, what about this? I'm confused about that. So here's what I would challenge you there is if like by the way, those who aren't in our program, I can totally understand the confusion because it's so noisy online. Do this, don't do that. This, that, the other. I get that for sure. But even there, I would challenge you to say this. Gun to the head. What do you think of the next like 3 to 5 things you should be doing? Right? If you look at this one page we give you that has 6 items that we want you to focus on, so basically the 6 pillars of how you need to eat metabolically, because not weight loss. That's a whole different discussion. This is not about that. But just quickly, like when you are in menopause, it's not about losing weight. I know that sounds crazy, but it's not. I promise you that. You'll just gain it back because it is so hard to lose weight. You'll have to do things that will not be sustainable over time. And therefore, you will yo-yo back. And weight loss and fat loss are 2 different things. So what we need to focus on, mindset, muscle retention, and metabolic health. Those are the things that are going to carry you through this chapter of your life. And so, sort of boiling this down, like if you do feel confusion and overwhelmed, that will lead to paralysis by overanalysis, inaction. And so, the challenge for you is this. When you feel that, just pause. Zach Morris, time out. Okay, let me read this again. What do I think I need to do? What are at least the action steps I can take? Then, who can I ask to get clarity? Now, that sounds really, really simple. But what happens? What happens? So many of us, we're afraid to ask. Or we just go like, I don't know what to do. And just go off on your way. Look, a part of this too, for long-term change, which I hope we're talking about long-term change, because if we're not, what the hell are we even doing? For that to happen, you need to learn. I'm not saying like you're coming from a deficit because it's your fault. I'm saying our society does a shit job of teaching us nutrition and teaching us mental and emotional health. And to a large degree, a shit job of teaching us physical, actual, like phys ed. What is physical education? You look at some of these programs in phys ed, it's like that's physical education. Like after 20 plus years of coaching people of all levels, including kids, you're going to tell me this is the best we can do in some of these gyms. I know it's not everywhere, but goodness, I look back on what we did and what I hear from people. And I'm like, holy goodness gracious, what are we setting people up for life? What the hell are we bowling? What the fuck are we doing, dude? And then people who don't learn develop this mindset that they're not athletic as kids and they live that mindset. That's bullshit. Everybody's athletic. And I will challenge you to the death on that. I know you are. But if you don't learn, you don't know. And so look, a part of learning is like you have to think about it. I know that sounds silly, but like you have to stop and like rather than just take information, like look at what you have and think through it. How does this fit into my life? When you feel confused, boil that down. What exactly am I confused about? What does this actually say? It says, okay, intermittent fasting for 16 hours. Okay. What does that mean? Can have collagen. Okay, cool. Can have coffee. All right, awesome. Can have a protein shake. Like, what does that mean? Right. And I'm slowing that down because I want you to slow down. Because when you do that, your comprehension will be better of it. And if you can understand it, you can stick to it. And so, really quick summary of it all. Be mindful that you don't need, it should not, while there are a lot of challenges, you shouldn't have to work harder than you've ever worked before, like on a crazy diet and a crazy workout plan. I hate to break it to you guys, but it isn't rocket science. And I don't say that because you should know it. I say it because the world makes it more complicated than it actually is. At the end of the day, it's doing a few different things. There are only a few levers that work. You cannot argue that work, that they work. They work. Do those regularly. Mic drop, end of sentence, put a period on it. That's all we need to do. So, how do we do it regularly? We have to understand it. We have to think about it in terms of what will fit our life. It's not about what you can do, it's about what you can do that you will do, right? Yeah, anybody can diet, anybody can do an intense workout. But is that something you're going to do for the rest of your life? Probably not. Actually, it's not. So, that's not going to work. So what will? And so that's where we come in here, right? So focus on the simplistic parts, look where you're confused, challenge yourself, think about it and say, what am I confused about? How does this fit into my life? And if you don't know where to go, that's why we have a private community that we offer. We're here to answer questions. I'm here to answer questions, but the reality is I can't want your goals more than you want your goals. That's just the truthism. One of the hardest things I struggle with, which it sounds really like kind of like self-absorbed when I say that. It's like the age-old interview question, like, what's your biggest weakness? I try too hard. I don't mean to say it like that. I just mean to say, like, I get emotionally attached to people's goals sometimes, and I shouldn't. That's wrong on me because it's just weight I should not carry, right? I'll help you as much as you come in, but you have to realize that, like, if you are expecting someone to throw rocks at your window to remind you to drink water or to give you all the answers, like as you ask questions, that's not helping you. That's not making you independent. That's not making you being able to lose and keep it off. What will is education. So yeah, the support's here, right? But this is the only thing that you can really control in this world is what you do, right? What you think about and what you do. That's all. So that said, before I keep repeating myself, please use this group. Make sure to do your weekly check-ins. Comment the questions here. I'm always here to help. Much love to you guys. See you next week.